Hello everyone, hello, it's Mark. I'm the marketing manager from Vates, and today it's the first release of the year for Xen Orchestra. And we're gonna talk about Xen Orchestra 5.91, so it's already a huge number in the release. And Oliver is here with me. I will monitor the chat during all the live sessions, so if you have any question, you can ask your question in the chat, and I will make sure Oliver will cover it during the whole live. And yeah, Oliver, if you want to dive in and introduce this new release, go ahead.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, everyone, and Happy New Year, since it's our first release for 2024 times 5 bits. So this is a rather big release. I know I tend to tell that for each release in the last maybe 8 months or so, but this one, it's, I would say, a bit bigger than usual, even in our recent, let's say, high standards. So it's pretty well, and there's many topics that we'd like to cover today. So, before talking about this, as you might be aware, or maybe you missed last month, we announced a new bundle formula for the support around XCP and Xen Orchestra. So, as a reminder, everything is fully open source. But if you want, let's say, any advice or things like this to start to migrating or analyzing how it could fit to your requirements, we provide this professional support and, let's say, assistance on doing all of that before and during running to production. So take a look at this blog post. It gives all the details. Um, so for people that are only listening, it's on the Vates blog, so don't miss it. Let's start as we start now, since I think last 5 or 6 release, we got a new category called Project and Community, where we talk about what's going on, let's say, in our ecosystem or around our ecosystem. And we will start about what's going on with VMware Exodus, like we called it like that, because to be fair, we have almost all our new leads or customers coming from VMware. As you are aware, the pricing policy changed a lot since the Broadcom acquisition, and it might just be the start. So we wanted to share with you what's going on with this, and we, from the inside, as one alternative solution of VMware, we have many requests and requests from people from any kind of infrastructure size, could be small or larger one. So we kind of discovered some trends in the end. So obviously the smaller setups are the easiest one to migrate, and it tends to go really quickly. But the larger setups obviously are harder, they use more features, and I mean, nobody on the market got the exact 100% coverage of the VMware features. So we tend to be not bad, but obviously larger the infrastructure, more features, so harder it is to migrate, longer it will take to migrate. But still, we started many, I would say, huge projects where people started to migrate to parts of the infrastructure, like mitigating the risk associated with the VMware transition by saying, okay, let's start on small project, then another one, another one. And that's how we built like a kind of snowball effect, when people could at least in the same time be used to our solution while migrating step by step until replacing potentially everything. So it's going pretty well for our friends, partners that want to integrate or resell. We also created a specific program. If you were or if you still are a VMware partner, we made a specific program for you. So if you're interested, feel free to take a look on a Vates blog again. It's a vMove campaign helping you to get really nice margins. So let's move on our community. So we gave you a quick, review on what's happening outside our world that is, getting an impact in our world, but now inside Vates. So many things are happening. Our community is growing pretty fast. I would say even faster than ever. Like between 30 and 50% growth in terms of number of visitors, people participating to the forum, the social network activity, and so on and so on. So this is really going very well and forward into the right direction. And again, bigger the community is, faster things are moving. So it's kind of an upward spiral where bigger the community is, better is the project overall, because we have more feedback, more bug fixes from people trying the product, and more people talking about the product, so people, more people interested, and so on and so on and so on. So that's really great. So for our newcomers that we are, warmly welcome in our ecosystem, we created on our Xen Orchestra blog a blog post called "How to Start with Vates Virtualization Management Stack." So if you really discovering what it is and how it works, how things are, plugged to each other, it's not complicated, but we made a guide on this blog post to help you to, manage that, so you can, in the end, understand exactly how to start, where to register, how to start this and that, and so on. So take a look. It's worth it if you are not already, used to our ecosystem. Let's move on for the next topic, which is XCP-ng security updates. We use the Xen Orchestra release, events by having this live, this podcast, but also a newsletter to tell you when there is security updates to achieve into XCP-ng, because that's really important. Remember, XCP-ng is part of the stack, so if you have updates, you will see them into Xen Orchestra, but still we want to be sure that you make those security fixes, you apply them. And this one is was a kind of a nasty one. You can also go on the XCP-ng blog and filter and click on the tag security to get all of them. But basically, this one was causing really bad, let's say, consequences from a guest when you using a specific craft packet. So it was fixed, and we thanks to the Xen community and someone at AWS who found the problem and provide a patch that we integrated, and now everyone could use it. So that's also why a community is great, because in the end, we are not alone using Xen in the even hyperscalers or other big companies, and it really helps to build a more secure software in the future. Moving on, regarding the Rust tools. So as you might be aware, maybe not, we decided to revamp entirely the guest tools for at least Linux and BSD. Initially, those tools were written by Xen server /Citrix, and those tools were written in Go, but we weren't really happy with the way it was coded and the way it was not really integrated into the community. It wasn't hosted at the right place, which is the Xen project. So we made them by ourselves in Rust, directly hosted inside the Xen community, and we built different packages for different distros, and we want to push for those packages to be available directly in the repo of those distros. So in this way, that would be a lot easier to install the tools. And there's also projects to reuse this, let's say, new code base also for the Windows tools. So stay tuned. This is a work in progress, but for Linux and BSD, it's the really 040, and it works pretty well. Now we didn't have any report on problems since 1 month and a half. So I think we could say it works well. So you can try it if you want. It will replace the older one if you already have them, but it works, and it's in Rust, and it's fast. So feel free to use it. Let's move to the next topic, which is also a kind of fun one. So the Xen Center open source version is dead. As you know, Xen Center is the, let's say, de facto client for Xen Server. Xen Center is made by the Xen Server company, which is part of Cloud Software Group. As you know, Cloud Software Group contains Citrix, Xen Server, Netscaler, blah, 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 and so on. So the Xen Server division decided to stop building it on GitHub. So that's the end of it in an open source way. No more updates, no more pull requests will be investigated, and so on. So the only one contributor in our community who was maintaining the fork of it decided to stop. So on our side, it's not a problem, because we already stated since the last, I think, 5 years that this client for XCP-ng is not supported officially. It was only community supported, so it's not a big loss for us. But at least we are happy. Then the main maintainer, Borzel, on our forum is now decided to stop spending time on the Xen Center fork, but instead to help us to work on the XO Lite, kind of replacement for Zen Center. So it's really nice, and you already did some contribution. Actually, we are in the review phase. We made many changes. I will talk about this a bit later, but obviously our goal is to assist him and anyone else to be able to contribute. So I would say this move from Zen server is not really surprising, but it confirmed the trend that they are, closing things more and more. So it's not a problem for Zen Center. It won't be for Zen or I don't know Zappy and things like this because it's GPLv2, so they can't do that. But Zen Center was BSD2, more permissive license, so they could do it. That's why we are really happy to have Xen Orchestra in AGPLv3, so nothing comparable could happen to Xen Orchestra, even if Vates we wanted to do so. AGPLv3, avoid you to make such a bad move. Anyway, another consequence of this thing from Zen server is on our side we are doubling down on open source. What does it mean? I mean, I just said we are fully open, but it's one thing to be open in terms of license code, community, and so on, but we want to go even further. And to go further and to help people to make more code contribution and even write some new pages from Xen Orchestra Lite or Xen Orchestra, we are about to open our design system that is hosted on Figma, which is the one of the de facto tool to make designs and things like this for an application. It will be available in the next weeks publicly, so anyone could see all the work we are doing behind the scene regarding the UI, the choices, and the results on mockups. And so if you want to contribute, you know exactly what should be the results, the mockup results, so you can make it by yourself. So as you can see, we want to continue to push on the open source because as our community grow, as I said earlier, it means more potential contributors. So it means like growing even faster than before. So it's a great opportunity for us to continue to grow that way. And as usual, we're really open to feedback, bug reports, testing, and whatever. All of that is very welcome. I spend a huge amount of time on our forum, but that's a part of my job, and it's really important to me, even as a CEO, to really listen to what our user are requesting, their requirements, so we could build the best product possible. So that's the way we are, and we'll continue to push into that direction. And it's kind of action reaction from what Zenserver is doing. We are pushing exactly on the other way because we are kind of convinced that's the right approach. And I mean, it was, as we can see for the numbers. Another news regarding Vates and our support team, we hired someone from the community, Dan. So as you can see, I'm not just talking about community because it sounds great. It is great, and some people doing really huge work on our forums could be hired. I mean, that's the second person after John that we hired directly to work for our professional support because those people made already a huge difference in the community forum. So Dan will continue, obviously, to assist on the community forum, but in bonus for the rest of his active time, he will also work on helping you if you have a professional support. So you could already publicly see the value of having people helping each other. We are seeing this, and that's where we are hire our support team because we know those people will be great and efficient to work with our support system. So we grow our support team because, as you can imagine, since we are growing fast in terms of customers, we also need to keep up with the team to cover when you have whatever question or incidents on your infrastructure. So I know it was a long introduction before talking about the actual Xen Orchestra release, but since it's our monthly, let's say meeting or show where we could talk about everything, then I think it was really important to make it and to explain the context about everything, even outside just let's say the features that we have in Xen Orchestra. So now going right into the, let's say, the main menu, and we'll start with our convert tool called V2V, VMware to Vates. And this tool exists since not almost, exactly 1 year. We made the release December 2022. And it was kind of a nice challenge to build, but here Flora made it. And thanks to this tool, we can easily migrate VM running on VMware side and send it to the XCPNG side. So there's some obviously caches. And initially, you had to, let's say, endure a pretty slow speed when doing the transfer. And let's scroll a bit. We'll see that with the new code that we are using, we have a very, very better results, very nice results in terms of how fast we can do it. So let's see the graph, and the graph is demonstrating that in terms of time to convert to VM. So it's in our lab. We got more than an hour to convert a virtual machine from VMware to XCPNG before all our changes. The VM was about 25 gigabyte size with only 4 gigabyte use. This is done on only a 1 gigabit link between the XCPNG and the VMware side. So it's kind of the worst case scenario. Obviously, if you have 10 gig, it will be even better. But then we spent more than an hour to only less than 5 minutes with the new code. So this is a huge, I would say, game changer, because now migrating is even faster, even if in some case you have to shut down the VM before doing any transfer or whatever. Then the transfer won't stay very long. So it's very flexible in the way that you migrate, but it's also very fast now. The secret is kind of many different things. I won't cover all of them into that show because it's already been a while and it started. But just the rough number is we multiply the performance around 20 times. So it's great, and it's available in the latest channel as soon as we finish this show, or in many, let's say, few hours after this show. So feel free to test on the XOA latest channel and make some tests, and get us some feedback if needed. We got a dedicated blog posts on the forum. I will add the link into the blog post by telling you that I detecting that I forgot to put it, but I will add it a few minutes after this show, so you could uh, provide your feedback and your results on the real, I would say, in the real life, on how faster it is since you made the update. Let's switch to the backup topic, which is the usual big thing in general. So this month we got one thing to show you, which is immutability. So it's in preview because it's, I would say, the first prototype, but it works rather well. So we made a small program that you have to install inside your backup repository. So if you use, I don't know, NAS running on Linux or something like this, you could install Node.js, deploy the package, make a simple configuration. I won't also go into the details on how to configure that, but if you read the blog post, you will see that the configuration by itself is not very complex. You have to pass the path where your backup are stored, for how long you want them to be, let's say, mutable, so nothing could rewrite them or modify them, like a ransomware or whatever, and start the program as a service, and that will be it. So the same thing, we'll have a block dedicated thread on our forum, so you give your tests and so on to get your feedback. Again, it was the first prototype, it's not meant to be the final version, but in very short, this program can't be, let's say, change or configure remotely by Xen Orchestra, and that's the point. This is a configuration you do locally to your backup repository, and this program will enforce this regardless what's going on from Xen Orchestra perspective. So in short, it removes the writable attributes from the file automatically for the period you gave, for duration you gave, and then that's it. Even if you compromise Xen Orchestra appliance or whatever system where you have your Xen Orchestra, where you mount the backup repository, you won't be able to remove those files. And that's exactly the point. So that's why it requires an external program that can be modified by the central Xen Orchestra. That's, I would say, on purpose. Okay, so it's not finished yet regarding the REST API, but I'm about to write some examples. But be aware that we have two new features. The first one is pull emergency shutdown that was requested by the community. In very short, the idea is to be able to make a quick API call, a REST API call to Xen Orchestra to say, okay, for this pull, I need to, let's say, trigger an emergency shutdown. So emergency shutdown could be detected, for example, if you have an UPS telling that you don't have any power left and maybe you have only 10 minutes left, then you need to start this call and automatically it will shut down everything correctly in the right order in each host one after another. So when you decide to start them again after your power problem is solved, everything was shut down properly with just one call. So that's pretty simple to call to use. I will show it when the blog post will be officially out. And this is, you don't have to deal with all the which thing I should shut down first and so on and so on. It's all managed automatically with just one call. The other thing is the VM creation through the REST API. I'm not exactly sure it will make it for the release in few hours, but anyway, if it does, I will provide the examples directly in curl like I do for everybody since we got our new REST API. And ideally, this feature will allow you to create directly VMs from a simple call, HTTP call, so you can provision that automatically in your system. I mean, it's already possible with the JSON RPC API, but we'd love to get that directly available into the REST API. Let's go for the next feature, which is the rolling pull reboot. So the rolling pull reboot is, again, it's another automation feature, I would say, that's provide an abstraction layer when you want to do some operation. So for example, if you want to update or if you updated the let's say the firmware of your physical machine, maybe you need to reboot it, and that might requires to evacuate VM from a host, making the reboot, remigrating the VM, and so on and so on. And it could be cumbersome if you have a pool with many hosts, for example. So this call will allow you to do that properly while flushing VMs from the master to any other member of the pool, rebooting the master, when the master is back, getting the VMs back on it, and etc. for each member of the pool. So it's like a rolling pool updates, but when you do not have any updates like XCP and zip update to make. And it happens sometimes. So that's why we wanted to add this feature again. This is great if you have some automation in your everyday task without having any burden to do it manually. So that's exactly the goal of this feature. Now, let's switch for let's say more UI related stuff. Like the first one is color tags. So we had tags since years now, something like maybe I don't know 10 years, maybe something like this. But anyway, now tags are more complex. As a reminder, we got the scope tags lacks in the last release, so you could have a kind of composite tag where you have foo equal bar. This will create this kind of split tag where you could have, let's say, the context it could be production, customer one production, customer one dev, customer one QA, and so on. So scope tags are really nice, but then we continue to improve them and discriminate them in a way that's even easier by just using a color. So if you go to the advanced tag creation window, you could edit your tags and select a color that you want with a color picker with the tag you want to have. So this is an example with foo equal bar, which is red in the screenshots I'm talking about. And this demonstrates that, if you have color tags, it could be really easy to spot maybe by customer, by QA, production environment. So you can sort in any way you want to organize your things. So that's very convenient to be even more efficient by splitting things or organizing things thanks to this new level of discriminating tags each other. That's it for tags. Let's move to the note field for VMs. So in the main view of a VM, you have a new field called VM notes, and basically that's a text field where you could write anything that could be related, for example, for the VM, a list of operation to do on that VM, describing what's inside, or some external links and whatever. As you can see on the screenshots, if you are viewing the video, it supports Markdown. So you could have clickable links directly inside it and use the usual Markdown syntax to do whatever you want with those VM nodes. So it's like a new friend you might have to remind you things for some VMs. So it might be important, and it could help to, let's say, work with other admins or even customers when you want to remember what's going on for this and that VM. Moving on the load balancer stuff. So it was more code revamping than anything else. So about that, it's more about making it, let's say, more transparent. When you run the load balancer, for example, you have suddenly VMs that got huge CPU usage. We will be smart. We'll migrate all the requesting VMs to keep a huge or good level of performances without any impact. But previously, we didn't have any restriction on the number of VMs we are migrating at the same time. And more VMs you are migrating at the same times, let's say bigger will be the impact or visible impacts, because doing many live migration means the VMs will be kind of paused, even if it's for short amount of time. If you migrate many of them, it will be for a longer amount of time. So now we decided to put it 2 by 2 by default, but you can configure it so it will be even smoother from a production or user perspective on their VMs. They won't even able to notice it because it's more progressive, but it doesn't, I would say, prevent to be efficient on the load balancing side of things. So it's a good thing, and it's also a code that we will be continue to improve in the future to provide even more feature into the load balancer. Let's move on another pretty big topic, which is not directly a visible change, but we wanted to keep you posted about what's going on with XO6 and XO Lite. So, as I discussed before, now Zen Center is dead in open source. We have more potential and real contribution to XO and XO Lite. So, what we wanted to do is to be sure all the framework parts of Xen Orchestra is ready for Lite and XO6, as I discussed in previous releases. Those two UI will reuse some common components. So we had to get a kind of a how can I say this? Like a common shop of components, a common base of components, if you prefer, where we could pick from XOLite and XO6. That could be common. So that's exactly what we are doing. So that's called XO Web Core, and that's the centralized repo that we host this shared code. So it had to, we had to take time to do things correctly. So that's why we did that, and we created kind of modularization between all our components. So again, that's what has been worked in the last few months, and it's almost done. And this means we could start to merge contributions. So that's really great. If you want to read more details in this blog post, feel free. We give an example and so on. We'd love to get our external contribution merged very, very soon. Now the whole architecture is done. So the final step is the Misc section, which, despite all the new big features, as you can see, there's still many other things to discuss about. So let's talk first about the SMB share creation. So before, you could create an SMB share for your VM storage, but it wasn't just from the CLI. Now it's all through the XCP-ng Center. Now it's also possible in Xen Orchestra. So it's pretty simple. Just follow the guide and you could do it. So should you do it? That's another question. I would say if you have an NFS share that is running on Linux, then keep it that way. If you are Windows based, and maybe SMB might be better, depends. So it's up to you anyway. Now you can rely on that and create those storage directly from Xen Orchestra. And so let's move to this next section. So all the next sections, almost all of them, are related to provide you better guidance on what's going on, because as we are far past our early adopters that were really knowing how it works because they were used to Zen server and so on. Now we have a new population, a new kind of users that are coming directly from VMware or even Hyper-V or whatnot, and those users need to be guided on more things, and that's normal, and it's up to us to provide this friendly environment for people that are not aware about what's going on. So for example, we added tooltips on specific tags to understand what's going on, why a VM won't be backup, for example. But we also added many warnings. So the next two sections are providing more warnings on doing, let's say, uh, the do's and don'ts, basically, I would say. So if you update your host and then your slave is more up to date than the master, if you restart your slave first, you will have issues. And we know that. People used to our platform know that, but not our newcomer, because nobody can tell them. So that's why we wanted to improve Xen Orchestra to provide you this kind of information. So that's why in the next paragraph we got both warning when restarting a slave host that is providing this warning, but it's not the only thing that we do. We also warn on the version of the pool, which is when it's not up to date. So we've seen warning when restarting the slave host. Now on host version is when you do an upgrade, sometimes that's normal at some point that you have different version between the hosts, but that shouldn't be the case for a long time. So we've discovered that some people forget things in the middle, and they have a master even sometimes in a more recent version of XCPNG than others, and that shouldn't be the case except during your maintenance windows. So that's why we provided those messages to, again, guide you on the best practices directly from the UI. And this is important because it means you will have less problems, and everyone is happy when you have less problems. Could be us, less tickets or less threads on our community forum, but also you are more happy to have a solution where you know if you are doing something bad. I won't go into the detail for the update VM creator. That's a minor thing. Same for XO Store. The other interesting thing I could talk a bit about is the logs ref and UID translation. It's when you got an error happening inside your logs before you just add an error message with some IDs and things like this, which is okay. But still, now it generates a link. So you could just click on the link on the UID of the problematic thing or the error, and you will be directed directly to the object having the issue. So it's helpful again for people that are not used to our platform, or maybe people aren't aware that you could use an ID to search with a search bar and so on. We are not assuming anything. People are discovering the software, so they need to be guided the best way possible. That's why we spend time to do this the right way. In the same context, the rolling pull update guidance, the rolling pull update button is a button that is helping you to achieve rolling pull updates in the way that we update the master, move the VMs around, blah, 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 and so on, everything in a fully automated fashion. The button was clickable regardless your situation. And again, that didn't make sense. So we made it disabled if you are not having all the potential requirements to do it. So for example, you need to share storage, you need to have multiple hosts. Obviously, if you have only one host in your pool, you can't roll pull update. That's obvious, but still it's good to explain why you can do or do not make an action. For example, before you could click on it, it will error. You'll have to read the error in the log and try to figure out why. Now we prevent you to do it if it shouldn't be done. Again, that's a quality of life for people that are not used to the best practices. Um, let's jump a bit to the auto-load all plugins automatically. So that's for our beloved source users. Now you don't have to make any symbolic link to enjoy all our plugins. It will be automatically linked as you git pull your Xen Orchestra from GitHub with all the features. You will also have all the plugins automatically deployed. So if you go into the settings plugin view, you will enjoy 100% of our plugins. So again, going even always deeper in the open way to work with our community, we try to make things the easiest as possible for you to try and to play with. And finally, thanks to Cecile for the XOA users running on the appliance version. If you are registered to your Xen Orchestra account, you could access what we call the hub. And now the hub contains the Debian 12 template, and more templates are going to join this section because we are now rebuilding them based on Packer, which is using a Packer provider for XCPNG. And so we could rebuild those templates pretty often and provide you a wider range of templates you could use. This one is cloud init enabled, so you just deploy it and then then you could inject whatever host name, SSH keys, and so on and so on. So this is just the start of this, but the hub will contain many more machines. We'll see if we found a way to make it available for sources users, but since it's connected to your Xen Orchestra account, we are thinking about the best way to provide you that. That would be fair for everyone. So stay tuned. Anyway, that's it. And it was a pretty long one, but still, I think it was really important to show you what's going on into our ecosystem, what's happening with VMware and things we're working on. Expect, obviously, maybe not exactly that pace, but something not far from it, because now our teams are, working full thrusts, and Vates is around 40 people. We doubled in less than 2 years, so we're committed to continue to provide you with, extra features, improvements, and everything is open source as we do. So stay tuned for a next release next month that could be also providing new cool stuff. And for closing thoughts, I will let Mark doing it.
Yeah, thank you, Oliver. That was an extensive release indeed. I'm quite astonished by all the content we have this month too. So expect also some news on
Mark.
Yeah, sorry. No, we don't have any question on the chat right now. But
since we do not have any question,
yeah.
So thank you, everyone, and see you next month. Bye bye.